And I was invited by Jim Polowski, Dirk Sylvester. I've actually got kind of two roles. Sales director for hallmark mitigation and construction. We do fire, flood, mold, any kind of water damage for commercial property, schools, and school districts and universities. And then on the second one for 20 years, I've been doing residential mortgages.
Nice. Yes, I agree. A lot of guests today. Love that. Well, welcome to each and every one of you. We're glad you're here. And I think, Jim, you have
an induction today.
an induction.
Absolutely.
I wanted to say swearing in. I couldn't get the word out. So thank you for helping me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Could I have Shelby Burns come to the front, please? It is my privilege today to welcome Shelby Burns, who is proposed for membership by Cole Robbins. You have been chosen for membership because we are confident that you possess the image and ideals of Rotary. Therefore, it is my pleasure to formally induct you into the Rotary Club of Lake Houston area. You have indicated your willingness to follow the Rotary requirements, as well as your willingness to offer your services to assist your fellow Rotarians in their community and international projects. As you know, Rotary is a service club, each member performing what Rotary terms as service above self. As you grow as a Rotarian, you will understand more what that term means to you. Like everything else in life, you will get out of Rotary what you put into it. For the next 90 days, you will be identified as a Red Badger, and with it comes certain obligations and duties. To help you learn about our club, you will be presented with a packet of Rotary literature, which I have already given you. I ask you to read carefully and understand the object of Rotary and memorize the four-way test, which form the criteria for Rotarians in their daily lives, as well as review the additional literature to learn about the history of Rotary and opportunities for service. Last but not least is our ideal of friendship. As you expect to receive, so give. May you be stimulated by what you find here, and may you in return, may we know you as an added source of strength to our club. Cole, would you please pin Shelby with the Rotary pin? This pin will identify you as one of the 1.4 Rotarians around the world, 1.4 million Rotarians. A few more than 1.4. All joined by the common goal of making our world a better place to live in through the ideals of Rotary. Fellow Rotarians, please stand. I present you as Shelby Burns, our newest member, and charge you not to fail in your duty by giving your friendship and helping to make their membership useful and happy. Shelby, would you like to say a few words?
Absolutely. Thank you all very much for the warm welcome. I've been with a few meetings, but it's only taken a few to make myself know that this is where I want to be here in our community. Finally find myself in a place professionally where I have time where I can give back, and as a good Christian, I can't imagine not using that time to give back. It seems like the perfect place to be doing it. Networking with local business owners and individuals similar to myself that share the same values. So looking forward to spend the rest of my life here in the Kingwood area and within this club, giving back and doing what else I can. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Welcome. Welcome to our club. We're so glad you're part of it. So thank you. All right. Let's see. You know, each week we've been introducing one of the board members. And so we're going to do, Lori's going to talk this week. But before you do that, I failed in my duties as president because I did not introduce the assistant governor, Stan Lansky. And I'm over here, and that little guy on my shoulder, so man, you screwed up. Everybody, welcome Stan. He's here so high. All right, Lori, it's yours.
Hi, everyone. All right, Eric, what do I do? Ooh, that's me. Lori Polomsky. I am your secretary of the Rotary Club of Lake Houston area. I like rainbows. Okay, next. This is my contact info.
One moment.
Uno momento.
There we go.
Hey, okay, so what I do as secretary, I attend board meetings as a voting member. I take minutes. I purchase all of your blue badges. you're welcome, and other needed items. I occasionally help the president with any tasks such as letter writing or sending emails in Club Runner. I'm still learning how to do my job better, but I really enjoy it. And I'm also part of the social committee, and I delight in being part of that as well. All right, a little about me. So I was born in Houston, Texas on October 26, 1976. I grew up in Sugar Land, and my parents still live in the same house that I was born and raised. I'm the oldest of two brothers, David over here, and Stephen. That's actually my bat mitzvah, my little bat mitzvah dress party over there. I am married to, my whole family is from New York, and I can do a really good New York accent. Pam knows, so if you need to talk or have some coffee, just call me at 444-444. Okay. I'm married to that one. Where'd he go? Jim Polomsky. And I am the mother of two kids. This is Devin and Jacob. A lot of you guys know Jacob. I have three dogs: Peanut Butter, a terrier mix, Jelly, a mini schnauzer, and our newest rescue, Leo, a Shih Tzu I like to call Zuzu. And some of you guys may know that's Juan Abar's baby. Yeah. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Creative Writing from the University of Houston. Go Cougs. I taught English for 5 years in the Humble School District, 1 year at Crosby ISD, and then my last official teaching year was as an adjunct professor at Kingwood College. I owned a cottage bakery called Sugar Happiness from 2017 to 2022, and we sold various cookies and sweet treats. So my top 6 passions, top 6, I have about 40, okay? Reading and writing, that's like one of my favorite things to do. Food and baking, I read books, like cookbooks, cover to cover. Family, friends, and dogs. Mental, emotional well-being, a practice, meditation, yoga, walking, RVing and road tripping with dogs. I'm currently writing a book right now about stress-free RVing with dogs. It's been written, I'm just going through the revision process, so coming soon, yay. And then of course, serving others through Rotary and just trying to be the best human that I can be. Things that I do really well, ta-da. I think you guys were on the receiving end of this one in the top right-hand corner. Cocoa bombs, just all kinds of yummy stuff. I pretty much spend most of my time in the kitchen, and I love it. It's true. Some fun facts about me. I have many favorite authors, but one of my top faves is Neil Gaiman. Anybody? American Gods? Yeah. Good Omens, Coraline. I read The Alchemist every year around the holidays. Anybody read The Alchemist? Yay. I know a lot about and can execute tea time, cream tea, afternoon tea, royal tea, and all the in-betweens. I am absolutely obsessed. I read books on tea time as well. Chris Johnson has been to one of my teas. Kat has been to one of my teas. I can crochet, mostly flat things, blankets. I'm super allergic to cats, camels, and llamas. We can discuss how I found out the last two later. I'm a passionate problem solver. Where there's a will, there's a way. I am also a multi-passionate individual who thrives on creativity. I dedicate my time and energy to various subjects and hobbies that inspire me, allowing me to explore diverse ways to fuel my personal and professional growth. I'm a night owl. That's when I get some of my most creative work accomplished. Where are my night owls? Cole's like, not me. And I just like to leave you guys with a quote, one of my favorites from The Alchemist. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. Thank you so much.
How about Laura? Thank you so much. We learn so much about each other when we have that time to share, and I appreciate all of the board members and the time they give to support our club. So thank you for that. All right, I think Pam, you have Paul Harris.
So Paul Harris is, am I loud enough? If not. I'm the foundation chair for the club, and Paul Harris awards are given to people who contribute at least $1,000 to Rotary International.
How do I do
And every $1,000 creates another level of Paul Harris. So I'd like to congratulate Mike on becoming a Paul Harris +3 today. So congratulations.
No, thank you so much. Congratulations, Mike. We appreciate that for sure. Stan, I heard you had a couple of announcements. One quick.
The district is trying to assemble a lot of intellectual and emotional support and talent to put some focus on anti-human trafficking.
Hmm.
And in so doing, they have set up an event on October the 11th. There's a flyer on your desk. And it is actually coinciding with the Day of the Girl. And they're going to be showing a movie that they've contracted at an AMC theater called Sound of Freedom. And it's, some of you already know what it's about. It's about the anti-human trafficking efforts in our country. They're looking for sponsors. My wife and I stood up and we bought a large sponsorship, and we have 16 tickets to this event on a Friday night. And it is really to increase awareness across the community. So those people who do go, I think, will be enriched, educated, moved, and will be able to tell others about it. I'm offering 7 tickets of that 16 that we have to anybody in this club. I have my business card here. If you're interested in taking a friend, a spouse, and attend that for a Friday evening, I think it'd be worth your time. Come see me afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. All right, Renato, you ready to introduce our guests? We're gonna get with the Honorable Mayor Pro-Tem Dave Martin. We're excited you're here. Thank you for being here. And so I'm just gonna stop talking. You know that? Let's go.
Well, I believe that Dave Martin, our former Mayor Pro Tem, doesn't need any introduction. I think he knows a lot more people here than I do.
He knows a lot of people.
Except to say he has done so much to help Houston and Kingwood against the danger of flooding. And more specifically, anytime he asked the mayor or the governor for something for us, he somehow got it. So maybe Dave, you can tell us how you did that.
All righty. Thank you. I'm a loudmouth from New Orleans, so today's an interesting day for me because all my family is fighting the hurricane. So we know what that's about because I remember vividly August 27th, 2017. That'll be a day that I'll never forget because my life changed on city council as a representative of the Lake Houston area and also as a father of a house with a wife that flooded. So I don't need this. If anyone has a problem, you need that for that. Okay, I guess I'll do that. Thank you, Dr. Brown, where thank you, appreciate it. I served 11 years on Humble ISD school board. Probably one of the most phenomenal things I've ever done. More phenomenal than what I did for 11 years just recently as Mayor Pro Tem and representing the Kingwood and Clear Lake areas on city council. I really loved it because you educated kids. And when you took that at heart, you made one commitment. That is, how do you best educate K through 12 kids? There wasn't any me in it. There wasn't any I in it. So I'll leave it at that. And I'll say, God bless you with the board that you have today, because there's a lot of me and I's there. So that's my politically incorrect statement for the day. So I'm an accountant by trade. I worked for 2 great firms, well, a number of great firms, but my last one was a company by the name of Marsh & McLennan Companies. I was managing director. And 9/11 is vividly important to me because Marsh & McLennan lost 298 employees. Our home office was in the Twin Tower, tower number 1. And we always have a memorial at 9, I think it's 9 o'clock or something like that in New York. We ended up going to Avenue of the Americas, and we do it there in the courtyard. But just a really remarkable day to remember and to be proud that you are an American and to make sure that that never happens again. So it's great to be here. I'll give you a quick update. When I spent 11 years. I worked with 2 mayors. I worked with Mayor Denise Parker and Sylvester Turner. And I'm a Republican by association, and those were two Democratic mayors. And I had great friendships with them. I talked to Sylvester Turner probably every other week. And just to see how he's doing with his congressional race and things of that nature. A fine man, and a fine man who gave me everything I ever asked for in the Lake Houston area. There was never a project that I asked for that he didn't give me a yes answer. But I did go to him with my information and my data that was fully supportive of the needs that we needed in this area. So I'm really proud of my years of service doing it. On December 31st at 11:59 p.m., I walked away. And I truly walked away because I believe that Fred Flickinger, who is our new council member, he doesn't want anybody second guessing him. He doesn't want anybody trying to tell him what to do. He needs to figure it out on his own. Now, I just talked to Fred yesterday. And whenever he calls, I answer his calls. And if he asks me a question, I'll give him the best answer that I can possibly do it. But I'm not one to meddle in anybody else's business. When I got out, I got out. And I'm spending my time working out with Renato in the morning. Every now and then he'll show up. I try and show up every day. Playing a lot more golf and then traveling, because I never took a vacation between the months of June and October. Because in hurricane season, you never know what's going to happen. So I was telling some of the folks I'm getting on a plane, and we're going to Boston in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to go see leaves change. Never thought I'd be going to see leaves change, but I am. But just to give you a quick update on where certain projects are that I was instrumental in and where they are today. As we saw a couple of weeks ago with Beryl, I mean, that was a different event. It was a wind event more than a water event. Harvey was a water event. This was a wind event. I'm proud of the fact that San Antonio came in and picked up all the debris in 31 days with 3 different passes. I'm proud that we were able to get all that stuff off of people's lawns and get them back to some sense of normalcy. The most important project that we have in the queue is the important Lake Houston gates. That will be the answer to us, hopefully, never flooding again. We had a problem in May. I mean, I'd walk the river and see it, and what we didn't do was we didn't pre-release water. I would always pre-release water 4 days ahead of any rain event. Sometimes it works, sometimes you don't need it to work because the rain never comes. But we never got caught in an event where it flooded again, because we lowered the capacity of the lake, and Lake Houston sits at 42.5 feet above sea level. We lower it to about 39.5, 40 feet above sea level to make sure that we build up what I would call artificial capacity. So when the water does come, it starts at a lower level and then it eventually fills its way up. You got to get ahead of that by 4 days. Why? Because we have 4 small gates on the Lake Houston Dam. They can't release a rapid amount of water. They can't release as much water as they can send us from Lake Conroe. So when Harvey hit and we went through all this, I had this grandiose idea to build additional gates onto the existing Lake Houston Dam. So we entertained an engineer, got some analysis, did a couple of diagrams, and then we were getting ready to see if it would be a bid process that we could put out there. And we quickly realized the Lake Houston Dam was built in the 1950s. And during Harvey, it became a little bit unstable, because it's a spillway dam. When water goes up to the dam, it goes over the top. It cannot go out of the gates because the gates weren't meant to do that. It was never meant to be a flood control gate. It was never meant to be a flood control dam. And when we decided to do this, we were going to actually, could imagine jackhammers going on an existing concrete structure and jackhammering concrete so that we can build additional gates. So we started talking to construction companies, and you'll get a kick out of this. None of them wanted to touch it. Why? Because of the business risk. If that facility ever had an issue and was compromised, we're gone. The people below us are gone. It would be a catastrophic event that would be of multi-billion-dollar proportions. So then we had to do a little bit of an adjustment. And the reason why we were gonna build existing gates on that dam was it was probably the most economical venue that we could put together to make sure that we had the ability to proactively release water. And proactively, I mean, when we see the water coming tomorrow, we can start opening up the gates today. We don't have to get 4 days ahead of them. Oh, by the way, when you release water out of that dam, that water is owned by the General Land Office. They send us a bill for wasting their water. And we've always paid that bill in the city of Houston to do it that way. So fast forward to where we are today. Myself and a gentleman by the name of Stephen Costello. If that name doesn't ring a bell, it should. Stephen was a recovery czar. He owned Costello Incorporated. He's an engineer by trade, probably one of the most brilliant engineers I've ever worked with. So every year that session would come in. We did it in 23, we did it in 21, we did it before that. We'd go on our begging for money tour through the state because we need money to do the dam structure, to do the gate structure. And we were instrumental in getting enough money to build a structure that is going to be a new structure on the east side of the existing dam. So instead of building and jackhammering and building gates within the structure, we're just building a new structure on the east side of it. Now, where's the money for that? We have every dollar that we need for that structure. It's in the bank right now. It's sitting there waiting for us to spend. So whenever you hear people ask you about the gate structures, understand the most complicated, hardest part of that was securing the money. And we have $150 million sitting in the bank ready to spend. And that'll be the amount of money that we need to build it on the east side. We will build 10 or 11 gates on the east side of that facility that gives us the ability to release more water in a second than Conroe can send us. So imagine if Conroe, like they did in May, just recently that we saw, opens up their gates. We're constantly looking at the level of Lake Houston and hoping that Conroe doesn't release more than we can send downstream from us. So what we do there is we have the ability, we don't care what Conroe releases, because if they send us 100,000 CFS, cubic feet per second of water, we can release more than they can send us. So we'll never be in a position, hopefully, to be predicated upon working with the San Jacinto River Authority to control their release. We still have a gentleman by the name of Mark Micheletti that sits on their board. We still have Karen Cambio, even though she lives on Lake Conroe now, that really help us in this initiative. So the gates are coming. You had to do a lot of environmental studies because Lord knows we don't want to kill the fishies. And we had to do the environmental studies that were critical. We had to make sure that we did the studies that shows that we don't release water and do to Sheldon and people below us exactly what we accused Lake Conroe of doing. So we never wanted to be in that position. So it's funded and it's ready to begin the construction project. I think they're going out for bids in probably 9 months from now. I'm sure if you get Flickinger in here, he'll tell you a story about that. Good news about that is the Lake Houston is controlled by a board. It's called the Coastal Water Authority, CWA. And the Coastal Water Authority was my bitter enemy when I tried to release water out of Lake Houston. They fought me like no one else fought me because it's wasting water and they need the money for, they need the water for the drinking supply for the city of Houston. So my effort was then to get a board member on the CWA to fight for us instead of to fight against us. And we were successful in getting a gentleman by the name of Dan Huberty on the Coastal Water Authority board. If you know Dan, you know he's a hell of a person. He's a hell of a representative when he was in the state, but he lives on Lake Houston. He has a house in Walden on Atascocita, and he lives there. And he knows more about that lake than just about anyone. So he's going to be our guy to make sure that when we go to the Coastal Water Authority, who controls the project of the gate project for the city of Houston, we'll be able to have the ability to have someone who is an ally and not an adversary to that. So that's coming. But every time it rains, we get sediment that flows from Lake Conroe, Spring Creek, in Cypress Creek that comes down the San Jacinto River. So the minute we're still doing dredging in the lake right now. There's a project going right now. We took over 1 billion cubic feet of sand out of Lake Houston. And if you know Lake Houston, you know it looks a lot different today than it looked right after Harvey. But we have uncontrolled sand and sediment that keeps flowing down the San Jacinto. And when it gets to the confluence of where the San Jacinto turns into the lake, which is a 45-degree turn, because of the laws of physics, that sand slows down and falls to the bottom. So we have to constantly dredge that lake. Well, we were working on a project before I left office. It was called it's a sand trap project. If anybody here is an engineer, they would know what I'm talking about. That is the way you control the uncontrollable sand that's coming our way. So imagine building a big old concrete facility on the west side of the 59 bridge. That concrete facility will be below the surface of the water, so you can still boat. But what happens when the flow of sand hits that concrete structure, it falls to the bottom, and then we scoop that sand up a couple of times a year. And what do we do with it? Before I left the city, we created a maintenance authority. We can sell sand. We can sell them for construction. The guy who had the contract with us, because we didn't have this, we would scoop the sand. We didn't scoop it. We would get the sand that's being pumped, whether it's from a dredge, whether it's from a hydraulic or a mechanical dredge, and we'd bring it to a guy by the name of Barry Madden's yard. He's over on the Humble side of the San Jacinto River, and he would sell that sand. He sold it to Angel Brothers Concrete, who was a large contractor on 1960. So my feeling was, I want to make the money and I want to put it back into the investment of dredging. So we're going to have the ability to do that. They're working on these sand traps, and this, between the gates and these sand traps, those are the most critical projects we could ever imagine to protect life and property in the Lake Houston area. Because we're constantly going to be dredging if we don't do the sand traps. Sand is constantly going to be flowing right in our backyard and making it worse than you could ever imagine. So the sand traps and the gates are critical. So give me the time. Where's the sand come from? Spring Creek, Cypress Creek, Lake Creek, naturally, because they're uncontrolled. If you ever go down Spring Creek or Cypress Creek, they're beautiful, but they're filled with the most beautiful sugar white sand you'll ever see. And anytime a heavy rain comes, it picks up that sand and flows it down into our backyard, and there it accumulates. So if we have the ability to capture it on the west side of 59, and then to basically take a crane and pile it up and sell it to whoever wants it, you can use it for fracking. Some of it is good for fracking. A lot of it's good for concrete, things of that nature. We'll invest that money and take the proceeds and put it in that maintenance district that we created before I left office. So you have funds to use for a variety of reasons, whether you want to continue to dredge and do things like that. So those are the two most critical pieces that we have to protect life and property in this area. I'm proud of the work that we did securing the money. I'm proud of the concepts that we worked. I'll give you a quick story. So I had to deal with FEMA, Army Corps of Engineers, and a lot of government agencies. And it's nothing more disappointing in my life than dealing with a government agency, especially Army Corps of Engineers. So they fought me tooth and nail on the dredging. There's a law that was created years ago that was called the Stafford Act. The Stafford Act said that if any natural disaster comes, you can get money from FEMA to take the repercussions of what that disaster gave you. And in this case, we had sand that flowed down our river. So we used the Stafford Act to go after FEMA money. And as I mentioned, we took $1 billion of sand out of the river through the dredging projects. Well, the Army Corps of Engineers made up their mind that they weren't going to give us any more money. FEMA was tapped out. They're not going to give us any more money. So they fought me on that last bit of dredging that we're doing right now at the confluence of the San Jacinto River and Lake Houston. It's called the Mouth Bar, Sandbar. If you follow Bob Rehacks, you'll know, art and blog, you'll know a lot about that. So we did a study. We did, engineers will know this, we did bathymetrics. We did LIDAR. We did a study that took a tube down 20 feet into the sand, and the sand has DNA. It'll tell you when that sand was deposited in that particular river by coloration. And you can examine it, you do it through a study that the engineers did. So we did all this, put it together in a 99-page report and sent it to the Army Corps of Engineers. And that was, this is our case, why this sand was deposited during Hurricane Harvey. Because as you'll see, we can go back to the 1950s and see when that sand came down the river. So they fought us and they submitted a 4-page tabletop observation report. The tabletop observation report was, they took a boat, went into the river and observed. We did bathymetric, LIDAR, we did analysis. And I had to go to Walla Walla, Washington, which is where the Army Corps of Engineers is located, and present our case. And the Army Corps of Engineers director ruled on our behalf and against his own Army Corps of Engineer group out of Galveston. So those are the things that you have to do. You just don't give up. You got to keep fighting. And as we live here, we got to continue to fight, fight, fight. City of Houston isn't going to give us a damn thing. They annexed us to take our money, not to give us money, okay? So you have to really work the system and work it well to make sure that we have the ability to do it. I'm proud to have worked with Denise Parker. We had $50 million that was dedicated for the reconstruction and the expansion of Kingwood Drive. We did surveys, and it quickly came that 50% of the people in Kingwood love the trees and never wanted to expand it from 4 lanes to 6 lanes. My wife loved the trees. I wanted to get the hell out of my house downtown Houston in as quick as possible method I could. So her and I disagreed. But I was never going to do a project that had a 50-50, rate of what people wanted to do. So I talked Denise Parker into letting us use that money to do the North Park project. Biggest problem we had on North Park was, where is North Park located? Montgomery County. So we had to go to the legal system, through the legal system, to say that it benefited the city of Houston, which it does, because every person that goes down North Park lives in Kingwood, thus lives in the city of Houston. So we were able to move the money that was dedicated to Kingwood Drive over to North Park. Because what happens is the city of Houston does this scenario where it's worse first. Kingwood Drive was rated at that time the 3rd worst road in the city of Houston because of congestion, because of construction, because of some other things. So we were able to use that scenario, move it to North Park Drive. That leaves Kingwood Drive. Kingwood Drive's a mess. Awful. So about 2 years ago, people need to understand this. You pay a lot of money into the city of Houston. I'll pick on Dr. Brown for a minute. Every year I would sit at a city council meeting and I'd read aloud to get it into the record, Dave Martin's property tax bill. So last year I paid like $12,000 of property taxes. Guess how many of my dollars went to the city of Houston? 17%. Guess how many of my dollars went to Humble ISD? 56%. Another politically incorrect statement. Show up for school board elections because they control 56% of your money. Okay, but Harris County has about 14% of your dollars. So I would always get people that would go, well, I pay your salary and I do this. Here, that's about how much I make. And that's about how much you lay for the 11 years I was on there. But that's being a smart aleck, but I'm saying in Harris County, you pay a lot of tax dollars, and Tom's Ramsey is our commissioner. Before I left, I had to deal with Tom that we would redo Kingwood Drive. Now, concrete is a heck of a lot more expensive than asphalt. So we were talking at that time about an asphalt overlay. I don't know what you think about asphalt overlays, but they're not as good as concrete construction projects. Kingwood Drive was built in 1950s, 60s, and it was built with 9 inches of concrete. Today, they're building with 11 and 12 inches of concrete. Why was it built in those days with 9 inches? Because we never had 18-wheelers zooming up and down, putting that weight on the roads. And now we have 18-wheelers every 5 seconds moving down there. So Kingwood Drive needs some attention. So I invite you to get Mr. Flickinger in, Councilmember Flickinger, and tell him we need to start working on Kingwood Drive and making sure that that is a pleasant sight for us to come into the area. Also the trees. Every year, the city of Houston owns the medians on Kingwood Drive. So every year I did a dead and dangerous tree construction, not construction, but elimination program where we hired contractors to eliminate the dead and dangerous trees. Because the worst thing in the world, and it freaks me out today after Beryl, is seeing all these dead trees. Because if another windstorm comes and somebody's going down that road, it's not going to be good. So we need to get on it. It's going to be a lot of money because I only had limited funds. I used it out of my service district council dollars. Kingwood probably needs to make a decision to the homeowners association. That is, if you really want to do it the right way, you're never going to get the money from the city of Houston ever to do it. Never going to happen. So if you want to do it, you're going to have to fund it yourself. So how does Kingwood fund it ourselves? Maybe do it through the homeowners association and have a generally assessment for everybody. But we need to get rid of these dead and dangerous trees that are in the medians on Kingwood Drive. And if you wait for the city of Houston to give you the money, we're all going to be dead and gone by the time they do that. So somebody needs to pick that up because I'd left it on December 31st of this last year. And somebody needs to pick that up. So my last comments, and I don't know if y'all want to throw some goofy questions at me. I'll be glad to do that. Lake Houston area is a phenomenal area. I traveled when I was mayor pro tem. I went to every part of the city, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, River Oaks, whatever. There's no finer place in the world than the Lake Houston area. Whether you live in Atascocita, Humboldt, Kingwood, any place. It's a phenomenal area filled with phenomenal people, phenomenal schools. Our 3 kids were educated in Humboldt ISD, K through 12. The oldest one's an orthopedic surgeon. The middle guy's an investment banker, and my daughter's a civil engineer. Thanks to you, Dr. Brown, and thanks to Humboldt ISD for giving my kids the gift of education. We're so blessed to be able to live in this area. Yeah, we all get mad at Kingwood every now and then. I wish they would do something with this old HEB shopping center right here that you go down on the left. But you know why they don't do it? HEB has a lease till 2028. And guess what? They're glad to pay that money to keep competitors out of there. So I tried getting everybody. Thank God we were able to attract that place to the gym and the hardware store to get in the old Randall spot. They're doing some really good work. They're finishing that large pad over in front of the old, I call it the old Holiday Foods, HEB. We're trying to find a good 5-star restaurant to put in there. I still work with the developer on it. But if you notice it, they put a lot of money and investment into what's a vacant area. We thought we had Perry's Steakhouse, and that fell through. Well, they're still talking to them, but it was one of their concepts. But what kills the big restaurants out here is you have no lunch crowd. You don't have any lunch crowd that's going to fill it up. So that's why the hesitancy to do that. So hopefully we'll get that spot filled, and I'll call it downtown Houston. It'll be a great opportunity to have a nice 5-star restaurant. I love Chick-fil-A. I love me some Raising Cane's, but I don't want to eat 5-6 days a week. So we need good restaurants back in Kingwood, back in the Lake Houston area. And, our friends right down the road do a nice job. We need to duplicate that over in that area. So I talk way too much. And I want to thank everybody for coming. And more importantly, I spent 23 of my years doing school board work and city council work, and I want to thank you for giving me the ability to do that work. It was a joy in my life. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I loved working with all the council members. Yeah, every now and then I'd get ticked off at them, but they were a bunch of knuckleheads anyway. But I loved working with Mayor Parker and I loved working with Sylvester Turner. We had some interesting discussions back in those days, but it gave me the ability to do a lot of good projects that I think will make a difference in the longevity of the Lake Houston area. What killed us after Harvey was everybody in the real estate market knows this, nobody wanted to come into this area. We're facing a little bit of that issue right now with Beryl. And people are still looking at us and going, okay, when are these gates going to be ready so that we never have an opportunity to flood again? And they're coming. They're not coming quick enough. But typically a project like this takes 10 years, and we're probably going to do it anywhere between 6 and 7 years. It's coming, but it ain't coming quick enough. So anyway, I wanted to thank y'all. It's good to be here. Good to talk to the Rotarians. And do we have a time for like 1 or 2 questions? 1 or 2? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Entergy, they had a problem with Entergy on the relocation of a pole. It's going to be spectacular. And they're doing all the work now. I'm not on that board anymore. So they have meetings whenever I think it's second Thursday of every month. But it's going to be spectacular. But they had an issue with Entergy. I would have done it a little bit differently. And I told the gentleman who's running it, I can be a real jerk when I need to be. I would have gotten in a car and gone to New Orleans and demanded a meeting with Entergy and said, hey, don't you know what you're doing to our neighborhood? And sometimes you have to be a jerk. Sometimes you have to throw love out, and sometimes you have to throw hate out. This was an opportunity to throw hate out because they slowed us down and it cost us about 6 months. So, but it's moving quicker now because of the agreement that they made with Entergy. But it wasn't anybody's fault on the board. It was Entergy's. Dug all the stuff out. It's going to be yeah, we have to build the tension because of the building specifics. That's going to be a lake like we have in Kingwood Drive. That's a big giant detention pond. And it's going to be beautiful when we finish it. They have a website. Just look at Lake Houston Redevelopment Authority. It has a simulation to what it's going to look like, traffic flow, as well as what that area will look like. And they did a nice job with it. Yes.
One last question, because we're out of
I have
time.
a question, not for them, but for everybody. I would like to see a show of hands. Now that we are on the topic, to see if anybody here is interested in an ongoing project to keep track of what Dave was talking about, what he worked so hard for, to make sure those funds don't go away, they're not taken by somebody else, and the project continues. And I think it is vital for our life in Kingwood and our properties. I'd like to see anybody interested in following up, maybe now we're here.
All right.
The good news is the money is in the bank and it's dedicated for this project, so they shouldn't be able to touch it. But politicians are different. And I will say, Mayor Whitmire received 25% of his vote from predominantly Republican Kingwood and Clear Lake. That controls, I think it's 12% of the vote population in the city of Houston. 12% of the voting population in the city of Houston is Kingwood and Clear Lake. He received 25% of his vote totals from those 2 areas. He's a Democrat, predominantly Republican area, and he needs to recognize that because we were vitally important to his election. And anytime you see him, you tell him you're from Kingwood, you're from Lake Houston area, you're from Clear Lake, and make sure we get the projects that we deserve because we put you in office.
How about a hand for Dave Martin? Mr. Martin, we want to give you a token of our appreciation. On one side is our motto, service above self, and on the other side is the 4-way test, which we're going to do right now, led by Tiffany.
Sweet, I'll use this at 2 o'clock when I'm playing golf.
Thank you so much.
Because I was given the microphone, I'm gonna make a really quick announcement. Chicks and Hogs Family Promise of Lake Houston's annual Chicks and Hogs event is coming up on October 4th and 5th. I dropped the flyers in a puddle on my way in here, but they are dry on the back table if you wanna grab one, and the volunteer sign up should be going out soon. Anyway, first, is it the truth?
No.
What do you think?
Four-way test.
The four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First,
Is it the truth?
second,
We're all concerned.
third,
Will build a good friendships.
fourth.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Awesome. Thank you, Tiffany. Service for myself, everyone.
Hey, last announcement, really quick. We have a property revenue tax cap in the city of Houston, which means to a certain